Now let us settle into a spirit of worship with a moment of quiet to be followed by the music that's listed in your order of service.
Good morning. The words for chalice lighting are printed in your order of service. If ever there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice.
this morning's welcome is incorrectly printed. It'll be provided by Anna Gregory.
Welcome. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester, a congregation of love, hope, and justice, inspiring people to take on the challenges of a changing world. My name is Anna Gregory, and I'm one of your worship associates this morning. We begin by acknowledging that in Worcester, Massachusetts, we work, learn, live, and worship on the seized ancestral homeland of the Nipmuc people, who survive and remain active as a Nipmuc tribe. If you would like to learn more about the Nipmuc community, please see the brochure in our foyer. We offer a special welcome to those of you who are new or visiting with us for the first time. We're delighted that you're here. We hope that you will join us in Fellowship Hall following the service for refreshments and conversation. If you have more questions or desire more information about this service or any of our ministries and programs, please do not hesitate to ask. We invite you to fill out one of the cards found in the pews that can be placed in the offering plate or given to one of the ushers or greeters this morning. For those of you who are joining us online this morning, we offer you a very special welcome for safety purposes, and so we may get to know you better. As you are able, please place your name on your video feed. Please take a moment to sign one of the attendance clipboards that are now circulating, which they are, okay, good. Though you're not obligated to sign, we appreciate your information and we'll use it for church purposes only. During the service, we offer an opportunity or share brief personal joy or sorrow. If you would like yours to be read aloud, please print it on an index card and drop it in the collection plate. These cards will also be posted outside the minister's office to be shared with their friends at other services. For those online, you can place a joy or sorrow in the chat, and we will share it during this time in the service. In the foyer are listening devices, large print orders of service, and hymnals of those who may find the assistance beneficial. I invite you now to turn your technology to worship mode. Finally, please note the announcements in the back of your program. There will be time for short verbal announcements following the postlude. We are so glad that you are here and hope that this morning is an opportunity for rest, reflection, and rejuvenation.
We'd also like to welcome our enlarged choir here. Members of the First Unitarian Choir and our own choir, directed by Allegra Martin. We're so glad to have them here.
And now let's sing together. Hymn number 95, There's More Love Somewhere.
And the violins will go first, okay? But you may stand.
We now invite the children among us to move on to their classrooms. We are not collecting change for change today. I'm sorry for anybody that didn't get that memo. But let's have our children and youth enjoy the religious exploration program and sing them out. It's so lovely to all be together, with the First Unitarian Choir among us and all of us together on a day that feels hopeful and sunny and warmer, just a little warmer. Is Brian Sweeney here today? Okay. So the eighth principal moment's going to be deferred to another time. In its place, we have a stewardship moment, which was going to happen one way or t'other. So I invite David Showalter, my partner in stewardship crimes, to greet you this morning.
Thank you, Maura. So, good morning. We announced this year's upcoming pledge drive in a Nugget article last month, and our theme this year is Defying Gravity. So in this drive, we're inviting everybody to soar together in generosity and love. The theme is inspired by Wicked, the recent musical movie, and that movie celebrates breaking boundaries and embracing bold visions. And we certainly need to do that this year more than ever in order to secure the church's future and sustain its vital programs. So every year during our June annual meeting, we talk about how much more we are taking from investments, and we stress the unsustainability of this MO. So to address this, the stewardship team is taking a different approach this year. We'll be focusing more on the reality of our finances than we have in the past few years. So over the next month, we'll be talking about the details. But for this announcement, I just want to put a few numbers in front of you. Our investment account value at the end of 2021 was approximately $1 million. At the end of 2024, it was just $683,000. If we had taken only the recommended withdrawals, we would have over $800,000. So last year, our pledge drive earned $209,000. Now with inflation and the recommended withdrawals from investments, what we actually need is $326,000. Now last year we had 91 pledge units. I'm confident that this year we can get to 100. But what that means is that the average pledge needs to be $3,260. So I want to stress that again. The average pledge for us to maintain our program, staff, and building in a sustainable way is $3,260. So today in the lounge and also on March 9th after church, we'll have information sessions to go over our finances in a little bit more detail and answer questions. This is geared primarily towards new pledgers or people who haven't pledged in a while, but everybody is welcome. So Defying Gravity isn't just about raising money, it is about lifting each other up. And this theme speaks to our shared commitment to dream big for our church's future while remaining grounded in our shared values and principles, and more to come next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. And as we all have come to understand our order of service as a suggestion, not a strict schedule, I now get to invite my friend Brian Sweeney up for our eighth principal moment today.
So, good morning, everybody. It's good to be here. Just about on time as usual. So, this year I was asked to speak about Major Taylor. So, who was Major Taylor? But more importantly, who was he to me? So, I begin with each summer, about 100 riders or so gather to do a short hill climb time trial in honor of the memory of one of Worcester's most dedicated citizens. I want to start this talk off with a shameless plug for the George Street Challenge for Major Taylor that this year I am co-chairing. So I will be soliciting spectatorship and participation more vigorously as the date draws near, so save it for July 27th, this summer. So Marshall Major Taylor was a world champion cyclist. Many people in this audience already knew that. For those who didn't, I'll give a little background. Marshall Taylor was born November 26, 1878, just outside of Indianapolis. His father worked as a coachman, for a chauffeur, as you will, for a wealthy family. His employer had a son about the same age as young Marshall, and the two became friends. Being friends with a young, rich white boy was a paying position back in those days. And this meant that Marshall had a job that offered him access to things like education and his first bicycle. Marshall Taylor, at age 13, found himself in need of a new job. His father's wealthy employer moved away, so young Taylor began doing courier work, and then he was hired to do tricks outside of a bike shop, wearing a military-style uniform. And that's where he earned the name Major. The shop owner entered Major Taylor into a bike race, which he won. The rest is history, as they say. And there were several good books written about the life and achievements of Major Taylor, and I think any of them would be an excellent addition to your library. So let's talk a little more about the importance of bicycles back in the 19th century. Think about how people got around in those days. Horses and feet were the only choice for personal transportation. In some cases, you had those wacky penny farthings, those giant front wheel bikes. But those were limited to a select few who were brave enough and wealthy enough to own one. The modern design of the double triangle bike wasn't invented until around 1885. It was known as the safety bike. It was rear-wheel drive and had a lower center of gravity. No longer a novelty, bicycles became affordable transportation for the masses. It was a huge commercial success. And as we know, get two men heading in the same direction at the same time, and a race is sure to follow. Bike racing was the most popular sport in the world. My introduction to Major Taylor is one of my favorite bike stories. I got into cycling at a young age when most young folks my age were shedding their bikes for cars. The year was 1984. And a young me had a crush on a girl named Kristen Hewitt. She was made from 88% unobtainium. I sat next to her in class whenever I could. That summer vacation, Chris made to me a perfectly unreasonable request, to which I agreed without hesitation. Brian, she said, would you meet me at school at 7 a.m. to go riding? I want to get into shape. Even though it was June and I was out of my bed and on my bike heading to meet Chris. We rode the streets of Bowie for a couple of hours, then I'd head back home. After a couple weeks of doing this, my father came up to me and we had that birds and the bees talk. Son, I know you say you're just biking with that girl, but you gotta be careful out there. Dad, we're just riding. I hear you, son, but you gotta be careful. Seriously, Pop, we're just riding. He nodded twice and said, good talking to you, son. In July of that year, the Olympic Games were held in Los Angeles. The Soviet Union and the other Eastern Bloc nations boycotted. That gave the U.S. amateurs a shot at medals in sports dominated by Soviet Bloc steroid-packed pros. Nelson Vales became the first black cyclist to take silver in a track event. Nelson Vales was my hero. He was the only black dude I'd ever seen on the high stage. I didn't need to be told that he overcame hardship. all black athletes did, with the exception of Carl Lewis, but look how America treated him. I wanted to be like Nelson Vales, but technically, he was a loser. I continued to ride long after I stopped meeting Chris at school. I started racing in '85, and it wasn't long before I tasted victory and wanted more. Riding and racing became all-consuming. I wanted to be better than Nelson Vales. I wanted to win on the biggest stage in the world. I wanted to become the first black American ever to become world champion. It didn't matter that I didn't have the physiology or the mental fortitude necessary for the highest levels of competition. I was fast, and I trained whenever possible at full gas all the time. There was no one to coach me. There was no science involved. You rode as far and as fast as you could. Then tomorrow, you did it again. When I rode to win. If you were on a bike heading in my direction, I consider that a formal declaration of your intent to race. When I got to college, I had new roads to scorch and new prey to destroy. One evening while out riding in a town called Phoebus, Virginia, I found myself in pursuit of another cyclist. I followed this man for mile after mile, while all the while slowly reeling him in. A stoplight closed the final few seconds that separated us. I greeted him with a smile, that smug satisfaction smile. He was not happy to see me. I'm sure the look on my face made it worse. We rode together for a while and we talked. He was what I would have called an old man. He must have been at least 45 or 50. He knew exactly who I was, though. I was a brash young college student who thought he was a pioneer who wanted to rule the world. That old man asked me a simple question. Young man, have you ever heard of Major Taylor? No, I replied. Son, you need to know your history. Go read a book. I may have been young, brash, and strong, but I wasn't stupid and so full of myself that I would not accept advice. As it happened, I lived across the street from a brand new public library. I took his advice and found Major Taylor's autobiography. Who knew that there was a black man who had once been world champion? Who knew that long before there was Jackie Robinson, there was a guy named Major Taylor that was competing against white folks and winning? My own struggles in the peloton were nothing. But now, so was the burden. A thing about being a minority in this country is there's an automatic group association inflicted upon them. I once saw a white guy running down the middle of the street in DC yelling gibberish. He had on dress shoes and a blazer. People nearby looked and kept moving. What didn't happen was every white person in the area hanging their heads in shame and muttering, damn, why is all it gotta be one of us acting a fool? I know that when I watch or read the news, the first thing I wanna know is, was the perpetrator black? That ridiculous guilt by association is applied to both terrible and great things. Minorities look for representation in the tops of their fields. When you can't find one, the burden of becoming the first weighs heavily. If you fall short of the pinnacle, then you also let down not only yourself and your family, but millions of people whom you've never met who happen to look a little bit like you or share common ancient ancestry. Major Taylor endured all the hardships and hatred of being outstanding and black that America has to offer. And I say has because it's not had. Because we're in the midst of making America great again. People in this story, perhaps this story can help other young blacks, aspiring athletes, to know that there was someone who looked like them and was able to achieve the highest status in his sport had to offer. And that if the off chance you're not able to become world champion yourself, that it's okay, because Major Taylor already did that, and that's something to be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest minister today. She hails from Northampton, Mass. She works for the Unitarian Universalist Association as a New England region minister. So she serves us and about 60 other congregations. Her name is Ren Bellavance Grace, and it gives me great pleasure for you to get to meet her.
You may not do that when I'm done. Let's see. Good morning, friends, and good morning to everyone who is watching online this morning. It is so good to be together here today. The title of my reflection harkens back to a show on Broadway called The Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe. I see some nods. Some people remember that, yes. The main character in that show, Trudy, has a great line. She says, "I made some studies, and reality is the leading cause of stress among those in touch with it." Now, I suspect I am not alone today in wishing I was a little bit less in touch with reality, because it is incredibly stressful right now. I don't have to tell you. I open my social media feeds and I see beloveds who are in fear, in anger, in confusion. I see friends of friends who are crowdsourcing dollars to pay for medical health care. I see teachers and farmers and civil servants worried about how they will pay their rent. And beyond all of this, the planet is pockmarked everywhere with war. Every hour of every day, weapons are trained on human bodies. And every day, another piece of the world erupts in literal fire, brush fires, forest fires, record temperatures, boiling oceans. The sheer callous enormity of this reality, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And truly, these are the days that we sing about in our hymn when hope is hard to find. Love is hard to find. Joy is hard to find. Hard, but not impossible. I believe that our faith calls me to this conviction. There is more hope somewhere. There is more joy, more love, more peace, but it does not exist alone out in the wild somewhere waiting to be discovered. It exists in rooms like this one right here, in this gathered community. It exists in the dancing flame of our chalice that is lit in congregations across the country and indeed the globe this morning. And it exists right here, inside each of us. Now, when I get overwhelmed by reality, I often turn to words of prophetic people that inspire me. So I want to share some words this morning from the poet Rosemary Watola Trummer, and she writes this: "So I can't save the world, can't even save myself, can't wrap my arms around every frightened child, can't foster peace among nations, can't bring love to all who feel unlovable. So I practice opening my heart, right here in this room, and being gentle with my own insufficiency. I practice walking down the street heart first, and if it is insufficient to love, I will practice loving anyway. One willing heart can't stop a war. One willing heart can't feed all the hungry. And sometimes, daunted by this reality, I tell myself, what is the use of trying? But today, the invitation is clear: to be ridiculously courageous in love, to take love seriously, to give love wildly, to feel the shock of indifference, of anger, of cruelty, and to stay open, to love as if it matters, as if our world depends on it. To take love seriously, to give love wildly. I know these are things that can be hard to remember in the busy days between Sundays, days full of work and school and dentist appointments and budgeting for groceries and an incessant news cycle that never seems to stop. And I know it may not sound like enough, but this morning, in this space made sacred by our presence together, let us pause to remember the power of love. Now, as been alluded to this morning, our denomination's General Assembly last year voted to place love in the center of our shared values. And these values are so prophetic for this moment in our history. These values, each rooted in transcendent love, are the very gifts our nation most desperately needs, and we are caretakers of them. For those who are new or may need reminding, these values we named are interdependence. In this moment where so many of our neighbors, so many of us feel isolated and alone, my friends, we are not. We are connected, all of us, in this one wild and precious life. Equity. In this moment when so many of our neighbors, of ourselves, are targeted for who we are, where we come from, and whom we love. Pluralism. Generosity, justice for this moment when greed is in ascendance and conformity is being forced by petty, bitter legislation. And finally, transformation, the truth that we hold on to, that revelation is not sealed, that our stories, our lives, our songs, our futures are still being composed. It's not over. It's in these values and in this faith that I take haven these days. We are all wide awake now to the terrible reality that too many of our fellow countrymen don't love what our faith calls on us to love. They don't love the people we love. My family, yours, our beloveds who are gay, who are trans, who are immigrants, and the children of immigrants, who are disabled, who are Black and Indigenous, who are poor. We all feel the encroaching darkness, and our hearts are thick with worry. And I know it may seem insufficient to look for signs of love in the world, in a world full of metaphorical and literal fires that need quashing, but love truly is the center of every movement for collective liberation. Without love, it is hard to muster hope. Without hope, it is hard to believe in a better future, a future that is worth fighting for. So we must have love for ourselves, for each other, and for the world, broken as it is, in order to be willing to fight for it and to hope that that fight will matter. So though it be insufficient, I have made it my spiritual practice in these days to search for signs of love in the world around me. And interestingly, since I started looking, I have not yet failed to find it. I want to share what my practice looks like, just to give you a couple of examples. Every day, my dog takes me for a walk outside. In the wintertime, that is the only reason I leave my house to go outside. That's true. There's a house that we pass on the corner of my street, and I probably walk by it a dozen times a week. But one day I noticed, because Sophie stopped to sniff there, that they have a large plant in their window hanging and facing the street. Its leaves are big and bright green, and they are shaped like a heart. And I remember it's my practice now to look for signs of love, so I spend some time thinking about that plant. And I imagine that healthy plant externalizing all of the love and care and attention that its people have poured into it over the years. And I remember that's how love works. We give it freely, right? To our family, to our friends, to our pets. And it all comes back to us. Love begets love. Care begets care. And no power of villainy will ever change that. And then I quietly recommit to extend my love and care beyond the people in my own home, and I leave a note on my neighbor's door, thanking them for the gift of green in a bleak midwinter. On another day, another walk with Sophie. This time she took us to a stream, and as she sniffed around, I watched water curve in between pieces of floating ice, and I noticed a heart-shaped rock. Maybe some of you have searched beaches and streams for heart-shaped rocks, too. I pondered the shape of it. I held it in my palm. I traced the outline, the cold smoothness, the blended colors of the stone, and I imagined where that rock started out. I imagined maybe it was on one of the mountains of the Berkshires, and it tumbled down from a cliff over time, and it fell into a river which carried it to the stream, which brought it to my path. And I thought, this also is how love works. When we open ourselves to dare to walk through the world heart first, how can we not be changed? How could our rough edges not also be smoothed? Octavia Butler wrote that love quiets fear. And friends, when fear goes quiet, hatred cannot grow. I give a silent prayer of thanks, and I replace the rock to the stream bed so that someone else who needs to find it will do so. Now, in our shared faith, we also have heroic reminders of the presence and power of love. I remember a story of Unitarian minister Waitzel Sharp, who served our faith here in Massachusetts, in, I believe it was Wellesley Hills, in the 1930s and 40s. Perhaps you've heard of the Sharps. They are founders of the Unitarian Service Committee that has worked for peace throughout the world for years. Well, Waitzel and his wife Martha had 2 young children at home when the news arrived from Europe that there was a crisis of orphaned children from the war. The Sharps felt compelled to travel to Europe, overseas, to help those children. And they also helped a number of adults who were targeted for persecution, all to emigrate to safety. How great a love for the world must they have had? How deep a calling for justice to use their power in that way. Now, I am not here to tell us that each of us should buy our tickets to the local battlefield. It's not our place, it's not the place for everyone. Exceptional stories of heroism, though, are just reminders of how immense the power of love in action can be. And also to remind us that Waitzel and Martha could not have done that without an army of love that they left behind. Think of the replacement minister who stepped in to love Waitzel's congregation while he was away. Think of the people, probably women, who stepped in to care for the 2 children while their parents were overseas. There are so many unknown people. Maybe someone that came and mowed the lawn of their home while they were gone. Maybe grandmothers who dropped off berry pies or brought the children to school. Behind the scenes, there are always untold stories of love freely and quietly shared that make powerful change possible. And this, I think, is the mission of love most of us are called to. Smaller gestures practiced regularly, consistently, purposefully, that keeps love's power alive in our world, that demonstrate a better way than fomenting hatred and dividing neighbor from neighbor. In my practice, I have found actual human signs of small gifts of love. Besides rocks and leaves, I actually do run into people occasionally. Last month, I had the blessing to visit my youngest child. He lives very far away from here, so our visits are rare. He picked me up from the airport, and we were stopped at a red light, and we were just chatting about my flight and the weather, and he was rummaging behind his back, behind the car seat, and then he rolled his window down and handed a couple granola bars to a man who was standing on a traffic island with a sign asking for help. And I recognized that gesture, simple as it was, as love. And I remembered there was a love that shaped me. There is a love that holds me. There is a love that I poured into my child. And that love is still flowing out into the world. And I think that matters. And I saw a young man at a food truck pull a couple of bucks out of his pocket to give to a mom when the order she had placed turned out to be more than she expected. And he said, "I got you," and handed her the cash. And she just thanked him. And that was love at work in the world. And I think that matters. And at a busy pharmacy, a cashier was waiting, unbothered, for an elderly man who was searching in every pocket for the coupon he knew he had when he left the house, and a long line was growing, but no one cared. She said, "You take your time, Uncle, it's okay." Because none of these people are disposable. All of them are beloved. So what I'm trying to say is that although these are fearsome and awful and terrible times we are living through, and so much hangs in the balance, we are not powerless. This practice of searching out signs of love in the world is changing me. I feel more connected to the natural world. I feel more connected to my neighbors, to my community, and to the wider world. I've started talking to strangers just to say, "You look happy today," or, wishing them warmth, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you knew how big of an introvert I am, that's a win for me. And I've started making phone calls. I downloaded 5 calls in case you need an app that you need to follow. I hate making phone calls. Anyone who knows me knows this. But I'm making the calls to advocate for people directly in harm's way today. And I'm calling the people who do have the power to help, because I may not know those people, but I love them. And I want them to be free. It's not much, I know. Nobody's going to write a book about this. But big things come from small things, and no expression of love is ever wasted. And through this process, I feel less powerless. We all are a people rooted in love, and there is no power greater than that. I really want to ask each of you where you are finding signs of love in the world. And I want to hear your answers, because I want you to remember, and I want me to remember, where you have seen love in these days. Where have you found hope? Look at the faces all around you in this room. All the faces on the Zoom screen, if it's visible to folks. All of these gorgeous faces. We can help each other to remember that love and persistence is a choice we can make, even when love is hard to find. We need love as humans. We need love, we need hope, we need joy. Our communities need these things. Our nation needs these things. Our congregations need these things. We can choose to root ourselves here faithfully, firmly in love, in the belief that it still exists because we love, that hope still persists because we will not let it go, and that justice will roll down like waters because we will do our parts to bend the moral arc of the universe in that direction. We do not have to be heroes to walk heart first into the world. There will be days your hearts will break. That too is love, because there is no morning without love. There will be days we will feel joy despite it all, and that joy is as necessary as water. Let it lead you to hope. Love, like God, exists in the spaces between us. Let this lend you the strength that you need to go out from this place today into the cold winter, and let it help us all be prepared to love the hell out of this broken, brazen, and burning world on the other side of these doors. In the words of this morning's poet, may we take love seriously. May we give it wildly. May we feel the shock of indifference and anger and cruelty and cultivate hope's waves. Waves that will wear down those cruel barriers and smooth the edges until the only thing left is love. May we all choose to live with ridiculous courage and wield our love as if this world depends on it. Amen. Ashe. Blessed be.
We pause once again in our service for our offering. This offering reflects the values and principles we hold dear. It is symbolic of our own efforts and capacities. It is a financial offering to continue the mission and ministries of this congregation. I invite you to participate while the choir sings and the plate comes around. If you are joining us today online, you can text your offering to 508-232-5331 or visit our website/donate and follow the instructions. At this time, the morning offering will be received.
Amen.
Thank you all for participating in our offering today. We come now to a very special time in our service when we pause to consider what is deeply in our hearts, it's profoundly on our minds, or in the work of our hands, and in the days to come, and the days behind us as well. Joys and sorrows which touch us deeply, milestones that we want to share with our community in the midst of this company that claims us as co-journeyers. Those of you who have a joy or a sorrow or a milestone to share, please come to either side of the sanctuary and line up. I'll get the microphone ready. And for those of you joining us online, please type your joy or sorrow in the chat, preceded by please read, and our tech people will help us with that. Come forward.
Is it on? Hi, I'm known as Coffee Hour Kathy. No, my name is Catherine, and I want to share something that happened this weekend. My eldest son was celebrating his 29th birthday, and he came for a visit. And he was talking with me and his girlfriend and our 26-year-old son, and we were sort of lamenting and kind of thinking about the political state and talking about, like, what are we going to do? What is the line that we will, that when we know, like, we are going to have to get out there? And I was lamenting that I was such an advocate for women's, for like abortion rights, and yet I hadn't really done much since the court had stripped that right. Like when I was younger, I was out marching and escorting women into clinics, and I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, I haven't done anything, so I'm kind of like beating myself up a little bit. And my 26-year-old son said, Mom, he said, take a breath, like you're okay, you've already done your part. And I thought, well, don't treat me like an old lady, like, I was like, I have not done my part. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, you raised two young men who are good, caring, progressive men. We are not Seth Rogen, bro, hose, or whatever, he used whatever, he said, we're not those guys. Like, we're the good guys, and you raised us. And of course, I burst into tears, and we had a big family hug, and I wish I could call my mom, but she's passed, so I couldn't do that. So I thought, I'm going to announce it at church today, because I was like, I guess I have done something right, even though there's more to do, right? We're not done. The resistance is only beginning, but I felt good about that, so.
Hi, I'm Angela. Thank you for all being here. So there is a sorrow and a joy. Friday was my mama in heaven's birthday. Thankfully that day I did not realize it until I got home after work, and the chaos of the day had been stripped and I was thinking, wow, I had a really busy day today. I didn't have enough time to even think. And then all of a sudden I did think, and good Lord, I cried myself to sleep and didn't get enough sleep. But I'm so grateful that my family is my family. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, we all got on speakerphone and we were all crying and remembering and loving and thankfully laughing, because my mama, she loved to laugh. The joy in this is the gratefulness of having my family and the gratefulness that you guys are my extended family. So thank you so much for being my extended family and for giving me that human connection I needed today. So blessed be to y'all.
Apparently I haven't talked enough today. So my oldest son, who's the one I worry about the most, calls me up and he says, Dad, I was driving, I saw smoke. So he's delivering Uber Eats or something. And I'm like, oh, you set your car on fire. But no, what happened was a really bad accident. It was a T-bone accident where the cars were pushed into the box that controls the stoplights. But the cool thing is that my son, he's like in the middle of delivery, he pulls over, asks if there is anybody in the car, old guy who was watching said yes. He just jumps into action. He goes to the burning car, and the man, is like he said, was over 300 pounds, and my son freed him from the car. He opened the doors and saved his life because the smoke would have choked him out within minutes. So, you know, he saved a life, and then when other people came and helped him drag the guy away to safety, he jumped back in his car and ran off to the Uber Eats. So I'm just thankful for him, and he's like, Dad, I might want to be a firefighter. It's like, oh, please.
Hi, I'm Diane Mann. We're all going to send a big amount of love to my great niece who lives in Tennessee. She's 2 years old and she has Down syndrome. Her twin brother does not. She's been through open heart surgery. She's been through some other surgeries. And last week, she went through an incredible surgery where they had to fuse part of her bones in her back to her neck and her skull, so that she wouldn't, it sounds horrible, she wouldn't get jostled or hit or something and involuntarily become decapitated. So she's doing very well. She was in a lot of pain, but she's doing very well. But please send a lot of love to Mia Matura.
Hi, I'm Meredith, and about a year ago, I started coming here. I've never been somebody to go to a church at all. And I don't wear a name tag. I thought that I could kind of sneak in, sit back there and be completely anonymous and just kind of sit and cry whenever I want. But it's completely impossible to be anonymous here. The first time I was here, the first Unitarian choir joined, and I'm just struck today that it's been a year, and it was a pretty hard year, and I'm really grateful that I have this place that I come every week. Glad to be anonymous or not anonymous, but I just wanted to thank everyone for being a community that I could join.
Hi, I'm Mary. I have a joy and a concern. 5 years ago, yes, it was COVID, but personally, this is when my husband first got really sick, and he was diagnosed with cancer. He died almost 4 years ago now. But my great gratitude is for the people around me who have literally saved my life through this. I never, at that point, when he died in 2021, I never thought I could be happy again, and oh, I am. And it's a thank you to everybody. I'm so happy to be back. I'm happy to be here. And I have a village of wonderful people around me who have just literally, from the person who said, I am coming to bring you to play mini golf today. I'm like, I can't. You're coming anyway, and we go out for ice cream after. So anyway, and then I have a concern. One of the people in my village, who actually is a member of the UU Church in Concord, took a very bad fall yesterday. She was brought to Emerson Hospital. I have not heard from Susie since that was about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. So I just want you to keep her name, Susie Weaver, in your thoughts today.
Hi, I'm Andrea. I was thinking about acts of hope and love that I have been witness to in everything that's going on. I'm an adoption social worker. I have a very specific story in mind. I have a 16-year-old who was adopted 2 years ago, and placed back into care per the parents' decision. And I got to get him back, which doesn't always happen. And he's been through a lot. I've been working with him since 2018. And he still wants to be adopted, and he's still very hopeful of finding that family that will love him. And I think we found him. And he's going to meet him this week. And I'm so excited for them.
In this little crevice, while Cheryl comes over to share online joys, I will insert that there is soup to celebrate together in our fellowship hour, and that for those of you new to our congregation, our service is actually scheduled to go from 10 to 11:15, so we're not running over. It's kind of a miracle, but.
And I will do my best as your online hospitality minister to get this done quickly. Linda Morris asks, we read, I am so grateful for this morning's service. Thank you, Moira, for your very hard and loving work during this time. And a special thank you for Ren for the loving message. That's one. Yay. The second one is from our other online hospitality person. Dawn Dowd was not able to be in the pews with us today because she is at the emergency vet with her beloved cat, Ian. So please pray for her cat. That's her family. And the third one is from Michael Bradley, who just called and I didn't get it, but keep Michael Bradley in your thoughts. That's it.
Joys and sorrows still dancing in our ears. Will you join me in a moment of prayer together? Spirit of unfathomable love, help us hold the joys of this community close, the joys of families connecting, of extraordinary acts of courage, miracle of medicine, and good companions. Help us hold the grief and the worry that is always with us. Help us to know that the blessed memories of our ancestors are always with us. Let us take comfort from one another's presence today and every day until the day that all of creation is held as sacred. Amen. know we're close to the end of the service, but I wanted to read the closing reading because I chose it specifically because the two choirs were joined together today. So this is called The Great Chorus by, again, Rosemary Watola Trauma. We all live together in a home in which the rooms are made of song, fierce songs of resistance, wounded songs that rise like sirens and drown out every other song until once again we hear the tendrilled song of opening. Chants of freedom, wild song of belonging, sweet lullaby of trust. What moment cannot be met through song? Even the greatest heartache, even the greatest joy, even the smallest hope knows itself not by its melody, but by who is willing to sing along and who is courageous enough to listen. Now I will ask you in joining in one last song. It's number 1014 in the Teal hymnal, and it is Answering the Call of Love.
Explain
Yes.
where people say answering the call of love.
Yes. So the words in your teal hymnal, come on up, choir. The words in your teal hymnal are different than answering the call of love, but the UUA Musicians Network is revising the words to on 1014 from Standing on the Side of Love. Every time you would say that phrase, we will say answering the call of love instead. Come on up, sopranos. This not to be on.
friends Friends, we leave this place today, but leave it knowing that you are loved, that you are enough, that we have what we need to meet this moment. Friends, go in peace, go in love. Blessings.
Before everyone goes, I wanted to thank again for the first few folks for coming. Let's give a round of applause to Jagannath Payson.
Please come on down to Fellowship Hall, your right, my left, and enjoy some soup if you want to.